At this point, we have a clock that will be current when the page first loads. But what I'd really like is for the clock to stay current as long as I have the page open. That means I need some way to update it every, say, minute or so. In JavaScript, we use timers for this purpose. Let's see how they work. We have available a couple of different timer functions in JavaScript. One of them is called setTimeout. The other is called setInterval. If you've looked at other people's JavaScript code before, you may have seen one or the other of these. We'll start with setTimeout. SetTimeout is a function that takes two arguments. The first one is a function that we want to execute after a certain delay, and the second parameter is how long that delay should be. So let's create a function called updateTime, and we'll wrap all of this code to actually perform that update. So I'll cut all this and put it inside the body of this function. And we'll give this a delay of 2000. The second parameter is expressed as milliseconds. So that means that this function will fire 2 seconds after the page first loads. So let's save that and switch over to Firefox and try this again. Wait 2 seconds, and there we go. Now we have a current time. Now, if we wanted this to keep going, we'd have to just keep calling this over and over again, setting progressively larger and larger delays. That is obviously going to be inefficient and impractical. JavaScript has another timer function that's used for ongoing, continuous updates. That one's called setInterval. We'll set this to updating every second. So I'll save this and switch back to my browser and refresh. Okay, I can sit here all I want, and nothing's happening. Now, we're pretty sure we're using the function correctly, and that this is updating, but it's just getting the same answer every time, so it's staying the same. But we need some indication that something is continuously happening here. So let's update our code to give us something that will change every second. How about we add the seconds? So down here on our time string, I'll concatenate on another colon, and then we'll use D again, only this time we'll get the seconds. Date has that function available, so why not use it? We'll save and refresh. And here we have the seconds, but nothing's changing. So obviously we have a bug here. And the bug is that every time this function is called, we're always referring to the same date object that was created outside of the body of this function. So no matter when we call it, we're always just rechecking the same exact timestamp. To fix this, we need to bring this instantiation of the date object inside this function. So every time it's called, we will truly get a new date. Okay, save that again, go back and refresh. There. Now we have a time that is updating itself, and we'll just keep doing that as long as we have the page loaded. One other note I want to make about timers. This is one that we want to just keep going and keep going and keep going forever. If we wanted to be able to stop it at some point, these timer functions will return an ID. So we could call this clock ID. And if we wanted to stop it at some point later, we could call the function clearInterval and pass it the ID that we got from its initial setting. We don't need that in this case, but it's something worth noting in case you have need to stop your timers at some point later. So again, we have this clock that's just going to go on and on forever. But this isn't actually the way I'd like to display this. I'd kind of like it to show up more like a digital clock. I'd kind of like it to look like the digital clocks that I'm used to, where I don't see the seconds, I just see the time separator flashing. Let's do that. So now instead of adding the seconds on, I need some way to make this time separator flash. So first we'll try it by making it display or not display. I basically want this to show up every other second. So in other words, maybe when the second number is even, display the colon. And when it's odd, hide it. So let's create a variable. We'll call this sep for the separator. And we'll start it off as a colon. And then we'll check the seconds on the date object. So if date.getSeconds, and we need some way to determine whether this number is even or odd. We can use the modulus operator for this, which is the %sign. So here, what I'm saying is, if I take the number of seconds and divide it by 2, what's the remainder? If it's even, the remainder will be 0, and if it's odd, the remainder will be 1. So I'm defaulting to my time separator being a colon, but if the number of seconds is odd, I want to make it a space. Like this. Now I have my separator, I actually need to use it. So let's change out this hard-coded colon for our separator. I will save, and now we can go back to the browser and refresh. Here we go, let's try it. And there we go. We have a time that shows the hour, the minutes, and has a nicely flashing separator here. If you look very closely, you can see that these numbers are shifting around a little bit, left to right, as the time separator flashes. We'll fix that later, but this is a very good start.